Today, we're going to talk about something incredible. It's the story of how a single American tank, showing up on the front lines of the Cold War, kicked off a technological arms race that would literally define ground warfare for the next 50 years and create some of the most legendary tanks ever built.
Okay, so picture this. It's the 1950s. The Soviet tank fleet is an absolute juggernaut. We're talking about machines like the T-55 with its beastly 100mm cannon. These things were the undisputed kings of the European battlefield. They were tough, there were a ton of them, and they could shoot on the move. They basically seemed unstoppable. But as you can see, a new challenger was about to step into the ring and change everything.
And that challenger was the American M60 tank. Now, this wasn't just a small step up. It was carrying a brand new British-designed 105mm cannon, a gun that fired these advanced armor-piercing shells designed to just melt through steel. And all of a sudden, that massive, unbeatable Soviet tank army looked, well, vulnerable.
And the Americans, they didn't just park this new weapon anywhere. Oh no, they sent it to the most critical, most tense spot on the entire planet, the Fulda Gap. This was the front line of the Cold War. This is where everyone expected the decisive, world-ending tank battle to go down. So putting the M60 here, that was a direct challenge. That was throwing down the gauntlet.
The appearance of the M60 at Fulda sent absolute shockwaves through the Soviet high command. I mean, the news flew all the way to Moscow and landed with a thud right on the desk of one specific guy, the one person they trusted to come up with an answer, and fast.
That man was Alexander Morozov. And here's the thing about him. He wasn't some formally educated engineer with a wall of degrees. He was a self-taught genius, a natural talent, who'd already proven himself by perfecting the legendary T-34 during World War II. Now the state was basically saying, hey, do it again, and you can just imagine the immense pressure on his shoulders.
So Morozov and his design bureau, they got to work immediately. They started exploring every single possible way to counter this new American threat. But their first ideas? Well, they pretty much ran smack into a brick wall.
First, they tried the obvious thing, just upgrade their existing 100mm cannon. But even the improved D-54 version just couldn't pack the same punch as the M60's gun. So they turned to what looked like the tech of the future, guided missiles. The whole idea was to ditch cannons completely. Problem was, these early missile systems were clunky, you had to guide them manually, and they were totally useless if your tank was moving.
And this is what I love about this slide. We get a peek right into Morozov's head. He literally wrote in his diary about watching a test of one of these new missile systems. And the results? They were just awful. He said they were working blindly. Think about it. Just a few years before, everyone thought cannons were obsolete. Now, that missile revolution just wasn't happening, and the Americans had seriously caught up.
So the Soviets were really at a crossroads here. A simple upgrade just wasn't going to cut it. The fancy high-tech missiles weren't ready for prime time. To beat the M60 and get back on top, they had to do something drastic. They needed to throw out the old playbook entirely. They needed a revolution.
And that revolution? Well, it came in the form of three distinct, totally groundbreaking innovations. When you put them all together, they wouldn't just be an answer to the M60. They would create a whole new generation of warfare.
All right, the first piece of the puzzle was a completely new engine. The 5TDF was this radical pancake diesel with cylinders that lay flat, making it incredibly compact. We're talking barely half a meter tall. One engineer even said its arrival in tank design was like the arrival of jet engines in aviation. It was a total game changer, letting them design a lower profile tank with way more room inside. Next up was the weapon. The engineers had this breakthrough realization. The rifling inside a traditional cannon barrel, the grooves that spin the shell for accuracy, was actually making new advanced ammo weaker. So they did the unthinkable, they got rid of the rifling. A smoothbore cannon could fire these new fin-stabilized projectiles with 1.5 times the power. Plus, it was cheaper to make and lasted way longer.
And finally, protection. These new anti-tank weapons could slice through solid steel like butter, so just adding more armor wasn't going to work. The tank would be way too heavy. The solution was composite armor, basically a sandwich of steel with a layer of something like fiberglass in the middle. This design completely messed with the energy of an incoming shell, giving them the protection of half a meter of solid steel at just a fraction of the weight. So, Morozov's team takes these three revolutionary ideas, the engine, the gun, the armor, and combines them all into a single, radical new prototype. At first, it was called Object 432, but it would go down in history as the T-64.
But it had one more trick up its sleeve. Instead of a person loading the gun, the T-64 had a mechanical autoloader. This carousel system could pick the right ammo, load it, and fire up to 10 rounds a minute, more than double what a human could manage. As one engineer put it, comparing a human loader to an autoloader is like racing a guy running up a staircase against an elevator. The runner might keep up for a floor or two, but the elevator is always going to win. However, the T-64 was almost too advanced. I mean, being packed with so much unproven bleeding-edge tech made it a total nightmare to get working reliably. That revolutionary 5 TDF engine especially was constantly failing, and it threatened to kill the entire project. This wasn't just a small hiccup. A lot of people in the military leadership lost faith and just wanted to scrap the whole thing for something safer.
But Morozov, he fought back hard. In this fiery letter to a top marshal, he defended his creation. He argued that truly revolutionary tech is always difficult at first, and he reminded the guy that even his legendary T-34 had a difficult birth. He insisted that victory belongs to those who have the guts to push forward, not retreat to what's familiar.
And guess what? Morozov won the argument. The T-64 was eventually approved for service, but its complexity and, let's call them reliability issues, still made the military really nervous. So, in a classic strategic move, they decided to hedge their bets.
See, rather than putting all their eggs in one super high-tech, high-risk basket, they ordered the development of 2 alternative tanks. Both of them would use the core breakthroughs from the T-64, but they'd be simplified and adapted for different jobs. This created not 1, but 3 main battle tanks all at once.
And this table just illustrates the strategy perfectly. You've got the T-64, the genius, which stayed as the technological flagship for the elite guard units. Then you've got the T-72, the workhorse. It used a more conventional engine, was simpler, tougher, and perfect for mass production and for selling to other countries. And finally, the T-80, the flyer. This high-performance beast, powered by a gas turbine engine like a helicopter's, which gave it insane speed and agility.
Now, this 3-tank solution didn't just give the Soviets a tech advantage, it unleashed an industrial effort on a scale that is almost impossible for us to wrap our heads around today.
The result of all this was a numerical advantage that absolutely terrified Western military planners. Across these 3 different tank models, pouring out of factories from the Urals to Ukraine, the Soviet Union built and fielded an incredible total of over 60,000 tanks by the end of the Cold War. Just let that number sink in.
And that gets to the heart of it. This wasn't just about having a better tank anymore. It was about terrifying math. NATO commanders were absolutely haunted by the numbers. As one German officer put it, even if Western forces were wildly successful, they just didn't have enough anti-tank weapons in all of Europe to stop the flood. The sheer numbers, this iron tide, meant a Soviet push all the way to the English Channel was a horrifyingly real possibility.
So this incredible story of innovation, risk, and raw industrial power leaves us with a really critical question for today. This Cold War arms race gave us 3 of the most influential tanks in history, no doubt. But in our age of drones, satellites, and smart weapons, does the very concept of a massive armored fist, an iron tide, still mean anything on the modern battlefield?